Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Online here. Welcome back to another video. And yeah, as you guys saw, I'm trying to do a new intro because I've been saying guys a lot in my past videos. But yeah, with that being said, I figured I'd make another Naughty Dog video, and this time related to Uncharted, and in particular, The Lost Legacy. Now, Lost Legacy hasn't been really shown off at all ever since PSX, and there's been a lot of rumors, and now, this month, because of Game Informer, we're now going to get a lot of answers questions, and since it's already the middle of March, we already have a lot of questions already answered. We got things like the new villain already revealed, things like the location, and more information on Chloe and Nadine as a whole. Now, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, I did talk about this with my friends on Gaming at its Core, which is our new podcast that me and some friends started. So if you guys do want to go check out that podcast, we do have it on SoundCloud, and it is also uploaded onto all of our channels. I did include time codes, that way if some of you are too busy to watch like an hour podcast, you can skip below to whatever topic interests you. So if you guys do care to go watch that, you guys can go see that. But I figured I'd go into more depth now because we did get some important information ever since then, and particularly in the villain. Now let's just get straight into it. I know a lot of you guys are going to be wanting to know who is the villain. Now, the villain has been pretty mysterious. I mean, the only thing we've ever saw was one guy talking on the radio to a leader or so, or, you know, particularly like the person in charge. Like a lot of times in Uncharted 2, they'd be talking to Lazarevich. Kind of like the same thing goes there. And we've figured out that the new leader is Asav. Now, he particularly worked with the government in the past, and now in Uncharted Lost Legacy, he's just kind of selfish now, and he really wants kind of like that discovery moment for himself, kind of like all the villains do in Uncharted. They want to have that fame because the government, when they did make a discovery in the past, you know, he wasn't part of it, and now apparently he is very jealous of that, and he's trying to do something on his own and going rogue, I think they said, or something like that, or rebel. And pretty much they're going to be going head to head with Chloe and Nadine, a dynamic duo that we have not seen coming for a while now. And yeah, as you guys know, they're going to be the two protagonists in the game. And going into Chloe and Nadine, they actually are going to be a lot more personal this time. They said that Chloe is going to be pretty much finding all this information because it's more family oriented and more personal than Asav, who's just, you know, kind of selfish like most of the villains in Uncharted 4 were. I'm sure Naughty Dog's going to justify that in some way because they did make you feel like, you know, Rafe could have been justified in some way. Each villain in the Uncharted series is always, you know, kind of two-sided. I don't think there's ever been one villain that's, you know, not justified at all besides Lazarevich, and I guess that's just because he's been ruthless and stuff. But other than that, you can kind of see where the villains are coming from, and, you know, with the description about Asav, you can definitely see it going there. And going back to Chloe and Nadine, as I said, it's going to be a lot more personal this time. In fact, Chloe's going to be doing this for her father, as I said, and they even gave a particular example when they went by this waterfall. They even said that Chloe stopped by there, and, you know, even Nadine recommended her to take a photo for her father, you know, kind of finding out more about her past and finding this ancient ruin relic, something like that. We don't really know what they're going after, but we do know it's going to be only in India, and it's going to be kind of like a standalone, you know, self-contained place. It's not going to be that whole globe-trotting adventure like Uncharted 3 was, you know, where you're going from place to place to place. Really, it's going to be like Uncharted 1, where you're kind of like standalone in one place, and, you know, do I like that? Yeah, because it is different from Uncharted 4. We already got that globe-trotting adventure. It's going to be nice to see something more simple and much more into this one type of environment. And speaking of the environment, that is one of the best things about this game, because they did say that they are being inspired by Uncharted 1, Drake's Fortune, and Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, which is awesome, because those, I think, are definitely the best Uncharted games before 4. I feel like a lot of people, location-wise at least, liked 1 and 2 better than 3, and that's just because of the pacing and the way that the environments were made, that you want to discover these tombs, and instead Uncharted 3 kind of like ditched that, and they made it, you know, I don't even think there was many tombs in Uncharted 3, if any at all, really, besides the whole, yeah, it's really hard to think of one that was in Uncharted 3, which is kind of crazy, besides maybe the Chateau little thing, and that was part of the house. But yeah, they said they're very inspired by their own games with Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2. Now that's awesome, because, you know, this is going to be the final thing we get from Uncharted. And yeah, so speaking about how long this game was going to be, they talked about a little bit on the PSX panel, but, you know, to remind you guys again, and to go more in depth, they did say that they were originally planning to be a scope of like Uncharted 5, but then they had to scale it down a little bit because of, you know, their resources, and they wanted to get production moving for, you know, obviously The Last of Us Part 2. Now with that created, they kind of made this whole name for it called the Standalone Chapter, and pretty much this is going to be in between Left Behind and Uncharted 4, so I'm guessing around the 6 to 7, 5 hour mark in between there. That's probably how big this game's going to be. I'm reckoning around 6 hours probably, and, you know, I guess that's pretty good. Again, we don't know the price. We do know it's probably going to be higher than $20 just based on the whole Explorer pack being taken down, so I'm guessing at least $30. And, you know, with that, you get a bunch of stuff. You get the main campaign, and they did say they're going to be stuffing this a lot more with puzzles and a lot more collectibles as well. So people that like to collect stuff and go back and play, this game is going to be, you know, kind of catered towards you, replayability wise. And yeah, so going about what I just kind of teased there, puzzles. They're going to be doing a lot more puzzles this time around. They're going to be removing the crate puzzles, which is something that a lot of people didn't like. I didn't have a problem with it at all. I talked about that a little bit on the podcast, and there's going to be a lot of different puzzles, and it's going to be a lot more puzzle oriented. So also going off that, there's a whole lock picking mechanic, which was, kind of new for the Uncharted franchise. And yes, there is going to be a reward for that. Now that reward is a silent pistol, which is something we haven't seen in Uncharted 4 at all. There was never silent weapons. You could just melee somebody or, completely avoid that, which is also part of the Lost Legacy. You can avoid fights, but now you're getting a silenced pistol, which is awesome to see, and it's going to be really nice. So talking about, the whole mechanics and climbing and everything, they did say that Chloe's not going to be as agile as Nathan Drake was, and that's kind of to be expected. Chloe was never that whole Nathan Drake build where, she can climb anything. She definitely could carry her own. I'm sure she's going to be in this new game, but she was definitely not a Nathan Drake. And yeah, so I guess that's a little detail for you guys. Now going into more on the gameplay, they did say that you could avoid fights like I said earlier, but in fact, Nadine will mark enemies for you, which is really cool. Nadine reminds you a lot about like a military leader or so it is really cool that she'll mark enemies for you, and I guess that's going to be a cool new dynamic. I'm guessing the gameplay is going to work a lot like Uncharted 4, where, you're pushing somebody up to get a ladder or so and drop it back down for you or so, and yeah, I'm reckoning that's going to be the same. That seems like to be a trend ever since Uncharted 2, maybe. We even saw that in The Last of Us, so I'm guessing we're going to see the return of that as well. Really, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of these locations. I really want to see a lot more of the jungle. The whole nighttime event in the PSX was really cool and all, but, to me, I really like that Uncharted 2 Shambhala vibe, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more gameplay in the coming months ahead. Now, that brings me to my last thing. Now, the last point I made is kind of like a leak from one of the own Uncharted developers or writers, and that is Josh Scher, I think you pronounce his name. And pretty much what he was talking about, how Zelda was getting so many amazing praising reviews, and he can't play it because, he's obviously busy with Uncharted The Lost Legacy. In the last couple months of production, you're always the busiest, and, really you don't get to play anything. So he's like, can you guys all stop, blowing up my feed with all the Zelda praise and stuff? I'm not going to be able to play it for another 6 months. And, obviously that implies close to like a September, October, August kind of release date near the end of summer going into, fall. So if you guys wanted to know a date, there you go. I know a lot of people speculated after PSX saying this was going to come out in March already, which is crazy. And some people said, oh, it's going to come out, near December or something like that. And yeah, just because of placeholder dates. So now we got kind of like, a rough estimate of when to expect this game. And honestly, we're probably going to see more in a couple weeks ahead as Game Informer, publishes more articles about this game, and as well going into E3, I'm sure they're going to have something nice for it there. But anyways, guys, that has been Uncharted The Lost Legacy. I figured I haven't made an Uncharted video in a while, so there's your daily spiel, I guess, from me. And yeah, guys, as you guys know, I'm not a Naughty Dog channel anyway, but, I really find a passion to talk about their game, so there we go. I hope you guys are excited as much as I am. I wasn't really looking forward to The Lost Legacy before this. I was kind of satisfied with Uncharted 4, the way they ended it, but seeing those Uncharted 2 vibes in Shambhala and just the way they got inspiration from the old games makes me, not mind it at all. In fact, build my hype level, especially those concept art pictures. It looks really, really cool. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys are excited about the game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.